Today's verse is very enlightening as we consider all the things that are taking place today. For instance, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, there are news shows that are on, constantly repeating, repeating, and repeating. And if they would listen to Proverbs 10:19, they could probably reduce all that 168 hours down to about 10, maybe 15 minutes worth of news. The Bible says, Proverbs 10:19, "In the multitude of words there wanteth not sin, but he that refraineth his lips is wise." I don't know about you, but there's been many times in my life that I wish I had never said a certain thing. I wish somehow I could take it back. And I find that if I would not have said it, I'd just not have that regret. The desire of that taking place in our life can be satisfied simply by talking less. If one has spoken quite a few words, one has probably sinned in their speech, and they appear as a fool. Ecclesiastes 5:3 says, "For a dream cometh through the multitude of business, and a fool's voice is known by the multitude of words." The emphasis of our conversation ought to be one that is quick to listen and slow to speak. I've had occasion with certain peoples to say something and they don't listen, they begin talking, and they stop breathing, you talk, and then say a couple of things and they're right back in it. And they never hear a thing you say. And how sad that is. We need to be very quick to listen. James points this out in chapter 1, verse 19. "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath." You know, it's interesting, as we look at that verse, it begins with the word wherefore. And so what do? We look back to the previous verse, and it says, "Of his own will begat he us with the word of truth, that we should be a kind of firstfruits of his creatures." So by a word of truth and firstfruits, we ought to be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. You know, following this rule would mean that we have an excellent spirit. "He that hath knowledge," the Bible says in Proverbs 7:27, "he that hath knowledge spareth his words, and a man of understanding is of an excellent spirit." Even a fool would be considered wise if he could refrain his tongue. Proverbs 17:28 says exactly that. "Even a fool, when he holdeth his peace, is counted wise, and he that shutteth his lips is esteemed a man of understanding." Wise men cut their words in half. They talk less. They understand God gave them 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Their words can be healing rather than deadly. And certainly we find that in the multitude of words, something's going to come that can be hurtful in the life of another. Proverbs 18:21 says, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof." What power there is in these tongues of ours, the speech that we have. But at the same time, we can be healing and helpful with our speech. Proverbs 10:21 says, "The lips of the righteous feed many, but fools die for want of wisdom." And so we ought to be speaking, not with many words, but with compassionate words, and words that are going to be helpful in the lives of those we're speaking to. There are some folks that don't like to talk, and yet they've got some valuable stuff inside. And they need to consider that their words could be a tree of life, feeding many. They need to consider to wipe away the bashfulness, which, by the way, many times is out of a prideful heart, and allow God to use their speech to help other people's. But probably the biggest problem is we say too much as opposed to saying too little. I hope that you'll inspect your words today and consider and think about how often do you speak as opposed to listening. And certainly that ought to be, I think, true with God as well. We need to be listening to Him more than talking to Him. I hope you don't misunderstand that. But we need certainly to listen to His great wisdom. As we open these books, we hear preaching, we find good books and all different avenues whereby we allow Him to speak to us. I trust today that be a day that you are a good listener and that God might bless you.